Hi.
Hello.
How's it going, everybody? Having a good Vimeo conference sesh?
A lot of good points. Really liked the AI one we were just watching.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, QR code. Speaking of that, we've got a lot to talk about today. So we will have the presentation at the end. So if you wanted to download it, and another way, we will try to get some cues at the end, but if not, we have a way to ask them. So let's just get started here. My name's Puno. I'm the founder of I Love Creatives, and this is Rachel.
Hello. And I have a YouTube channel that I've been running for 10 years, and I'm teaching a course on video creation with I Love Creatives.
Yes, we have a course called the Video Creator Course. I Love Creatives is how would you describe it? It's like a digital trade school for creative people. It's for those of you that remember the ITT Tech. It's kind of like what we're trying to do now. But yeah, with Rachel, we teach the Video Creator Course, and it's essentially how to make a video. And today we're going to do a 30-minute kind of peek into what we teach. One of the big things that we talk about is the creative process. And the reason why we felt like we needed to teach this is because we wanted to give people a lot more tools to ideate. I made this little graph here, this little pie chart. It's a very exaggerated version of how many tools people have, but the top is like, we have trends to lean on and maybe our boss's ideas that we have to implement. But really, what we did was we took Rachel's brain because she just naturally has lots of ways that she taps into herself and to other people. And we created like a ton of these worksheets of how can you ideate so that you don't feel stuck. I feel
Right.
like what happens here is like with students is that how are they feeling after they learn all these different tools?
Yeah. I think a big part of video creation is how to be more human with it. I think we can all agree that there's so much content online, and it's like we're kind of getting burnt out on content, but that's not going to go away. Stories constantly need to be told. So, I think the true thing that we're trying to teach in this course in the creative process is just how to be more human.
And this is actually our workbook that comes with the creative process, and it goes through all of the steps from idea generation to pre-production, production, post-production, showcase. But in today, what we really want to talk about is this one part where we find a lot of people get stuck. It's the idea generation. What have you seen after you've taught this course like for 2 years now?
The thing that I have really seen with students is that there's a plethora of ideas in students' heads, or they're too in their head and they're kind of policing their ideas before it even has time to express itself. So we really try to have, a strong curriculum, strong deadlines, and letting everything kind of unfold naturally. But I mean, we'll get into this. We're really trying to condense this course into 30 minutes, and this is a big part of it, actually. It's like kind of going into how do you even pick an idea? And if you were to leave today with one video idea, what would it be? That's kind of our exercise today, right, Puna?
Yes. And that question is kind of loaded. But we really do feel like a lot of people need to step back and ask this first question, which is, what is your intention?
And it's kind of a brief, still a vague question, like what is even intention? And if I were to simplify this, for the sake of today, I think it's just being a little bit less reactive to our surroundings. It's less reactive to like what, our investors might be thinking about when we're making things. It might be what our audience is expecting from us, what we're expecting from ourselves based on the influences that we have around us. Are we comparing ourselves? It's kind of going back to an ego check. And
Mhm.
what is the intention and how do we make it a little bit more human?
'Cause I get it. That's what we have to do. That's what we are sometimes having to make content for. But how can we actually be more human? What are some questions that we can ask? And I think that one thing that Rachel and I talk about all the time is that video is just the coolest medium. You always say this. You always say that it's the bridge.
It's totally a bridge because video is literally everything that we kind of consume. You can have music in it, it's pacing, it's tonality, it's imagery, it's visuals, it's craft, it's a full story. So I get it. Video can be really overwhelming to me because there's a lot of things to think about. Um, but video is so special because it's one of the closest mediums we have to the human experience. The things that we make and what we end up watching, whether it's a movie or a short film or a music video, we all have that one video that kind of replays in our head over and over again, because it really is that bridge that we feel connected to an artist or a creator or a brand.
And we often have to remind our students to take advantage of this medium. Like, this is really one of the best mediums to express human feelings. And so, let's ask this question again. What is your intention? What can you share? What have you personally experienced? What have you felt?
And I think all of these things are extremely valid questions to ask ourselves. Even if you have a product and you're trying to make brand videos for yourself, you probably started your product because you've experienced something that was lacking around you. And then you're like, wait a second, I want to make this thing. I want to make this service, this product, this story, this feeling, this representation. I think oftentimes we can get really, I know I can, at least I can complain a lot about like the content that I'm watching and I'm like, ugh, none of this like suits me. I don't there's nothing I really want to watch. But that void is exactly why we need to create still. And I think the dialogue that triggers us is it's sort of like, well, there's something inside of me that is needing to express itself, and I find myself that's when I complain a lot. So um, I know it's really overwhelming to think about this idea because there's so much to say and to share, but something I find really helpful is kind of really looking within ourselves and picking really one specific thing or feeling or experience and growing that.
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of students who embrace the process, embrace like digging into their feelings, then they got a lot of feelings. They got too many feelings. And so they have to now figure out, how do you pick one? How do you pick that one experience? And this is where the creative statement is going to really help you be concise and kind of be the backbone to your viewer's journey. So, this is the creative statement. And if you'd like, you can screenshot this, but it's just 3 steps, and we're
It
gonna go through each one.
Yes, perfect.
So, the first one is, I've experienced, and then this would be your perspective.
And I know it can get overwhelming. This is also where students are like, wait a second, I want to just make a video. Like, why are you asking me all these personal questions? And like, why do I have to dig so deep? And the thing is, it's like if we want to make things that are impactful, that's essentially art. You know, the creative process is expressing ourselves. And with our perspective, I think it becomes a really great seed and anchor point into understanding like what it is we're trying to say. I think oftentimes like our ideas are jumping around in our heads so much that like, well, let's take a step back. Like, where are you coming from? What's your perspective? What's something that's weighing on you? What's an idea that needs room to express itself? Like, what are you thinking about recently? Um, and I think brands often do the same things as well as creators.
Yeah, I at I Love Creatives, we have to do paid ads. We have to sell online courses, which is like really cringe, or it can be. And so we really have to ask ourselves, Why did we even actually sell this course? Why are we even building this education? And so these are some of the three questions that we ask ourselves all the time to really bring that humanness. I don't know if anybody's seen our ads before, but we really try to make them hit, and get that head nod, but also make you laugh. And a lot of times some of that innate perspective comes from literally just paying attention to what people say verbatim about our courses. And that's like the nugget that we start. We tend to oftentimes stray into marketing speak and be really marketing, and we just have to constantly remind ourselves what our perspective is. What is it that we're trying to say?
Hmm. So the next part of the creative statement, and this is part of one part of the course, is just having this little statement to just talk about the video that you're making, but taking account into your audience and what they're going to take away from your video when they watch it.
And some people, whoops, whoa, sorry. Some people, I'm all like, tick, tick, tick. Some people don't have an audience yet. And this is actually a question that came up in the last digital retreat from a student that
Yeah,
I thought was like, oof, that hits right there.
it's a great question because truly, yeah, like who am I when I don't have an audience? And it took me a while to answer that from a student, and it became a great point of discussion in class. And the best thing that I was able to come up with is that we are our own audience first. And I often say that energy is so transmutable, and I don't mean to make this super woo woo, but I think that if I am moved by something, I'm going to be moved in filming and editing it. And the audience might will feel moved as well if I feel inspired or provoked or curious, all or happy or sad. All of that translates what the viewer is getting from it too.
Mhm. Even whenever you work with brands too, I remember we had a conversation about this, and it was just really important that you are your own audience, not you catering to the brand or even catering to your own community. So
Mhm.
I feel like that's why it can be so raw and can be so emotional, because you're like, is Rachel not going to be bored by this video or what?
Yeah, yeah, and when you are your own audience first, and whether you even if you started a company and you have a brand, or you are a creator, or you're making whatever you're working on, you kind of do it for yourself first. And I find that anything that I'm really interested in, if I find out who started it, I always find out that they make it for themselves first. So for the creators, it's like communities that you're trying to talk to, family members, earth, aspects of yourself. And when we say that you are your own audience first, you are also still a participant in a larger collective of community or whatever it is. So when you're talking to yourself and you're expressing yourself and you're digging in yourself for your perspective, what ends up happening is you're speaking such truth and such honesty that it ends up your audience ends up building itself, like your external audience ends up building upon itself because they see a part of themselves in you. And that's just being human. When we're allowed to be human and tap into the real human parts of ourselves and tell that story, people will see themselves in that too. And that's how you can build out your audience.
And I feel like that resonates really well with brands as well, because um, I often will, yes, I'll think about our audience, but I always start with myself and what is that head nod? What is that takeaway that I'm like, yes, that's exactly why I need this, or that's the place that I'm at right now in my life. And we ask ourselves who is a community that your brand just gets? Like they understand them. How do you make them feel seen? What is that takeaway that they need to hear? And And that's really the most important thing for you to think about with your video on top of your perspective, like what you've seen, but also, okay, now what can they take away? And you'll then sum all of this up into the third part of this creative statement, which is I am making a video about, and
Your video
that's
idea.
your video idea. And one way that we try to like think about this and not make it so intense is think of it as the title of the video.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be your literal title. It could just be it's just like quick context before someone hits play.
Hmm. You're gonna go and just, at least in our course, we list out all of the ideas that communicate your perspective and the takeaway of the video, and like you just need to go off. You have to create so many ideas that you're just like let them flow. Don't you're Rachel, you're always big about saying don't edit at this point. We're not in the editing stage. It's
Mm,
all about generating as many ideas as possible.
right, and getting a really focused perspective on it. So we kind of just like riffed off like these are some video ideas that I have in my head. And Puno has written some out too. And I think that these are so fun. And I think this is almost enough of a creative statement. Like, what do my parents think about love? I think we can all conjure and imagine like what this video we're about to watch is. Um, I am big on the idea of spiritual housekeeping. So it's like, what does that even mean? You know, there's all suddenly when you can think about the headline, the context before the play button, you can kind of get to see how this video comes to life.
Yeah, and I did the same thing for brands, little Mad Libby there, so you could always like insert your product. But these are just a couple of thought starters to help your brain juice move. And then we've got other tools too that we talk about. One we wanted to discuss in this presentation was blending perspectives. I think this one is really fun because like let's basically what you're going to do is take all of the ideas that you wrote out. You haven't edited them. And then you're going to copy them to another column. And this is where you literally will just see what hits. Can you just literally blend a few of these ideas together?
Yeah, because sometimes like the idea, like, what do my parents think about love? Like, okay, that's a cool video, right? Like, we are already thinking about it. But it's like giving it structure to like another idea I had about like the 30 things I knew to be true. And like, there's a lot of ways that our ideas can come to fruition. So it's sort of like being able to give a more focused and unique perspective and execution idea to kind of help you have something that feels like yourself, you know, like you're taking all of your ideas, you see it on a bird's eye view, and like just blending this perspective together, and suddenly you have something that feels really, really focused.
Hmm. And then after you listed all your ideas, you went buck wild. Now it's time to pick that one idea that most clearly communicates your perspective and the takeaway at the same time. Um, that's when you edit.
Hmm. Okay, so that was a lot. We have about 10 minutes left. We're going to keep going a little bit, but I think the point of this about just getting to this point of like, all right, I'm committing myself to making this video. Doesn't matter how it's going to turn out, but we're making this video and I'm deciding that this is what it's going to be.
Yes,
Um,
this is honestly where people get the most stuck is they don't embrace just this uncomfortableness feeling of, okay, I'm moving forward with this idea. But this is where we have to consistently remind you, like, just embrace it and don't live in indecisiveness. You always say this that the creative statement is not everything.
right. It's not like it's not your container. It's well, it is a container in a way, but it's kind of a seed, and you don't know what tree you're planting yet, but you're planting a seed. That's your intention. and you're kind of letting it go from there, like letting it unfold in natural ways. And that is the creative process. It's reminding yourself that it's a process. So now that we have your video idea, I hope you have one. I hope you're working on this as we're going through this, or maybe not. But next, just okay, think about what your parents think about love and the 30 things you know to be true. Just start writing as much as you can out. I believe heavily in the idea of exportation, because if an idea just lives in your head without execution, you're just daydreaming. So start mind mapping. Look at your writing that you did in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, however much time you gave yourself, and look at how you can make next steps with that. What do I need to film? Is there a shot list? Can I write the treatment out? What do I need to film? What does this sound like? Is there a song that immediately like conjures the feeling when I look at my writing? And oftentimes I remind everybody that there's so much that to compile when you make a video, and it all comes down to the edit. And I think sometimes we get like a little precious about what we're filming and like what the idea is. Let it breathe. Let it really grow, because you will edit it and then you'll
Mhm.
publish it. And publishing is one of the most important things, because it closes the feedback loop of what's going on in your head and it's finally outside of yourself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Publishing it is really the final step, but it is the part that's like, okay, here we go. This is it. Um, I think just in general, I mean, there's some of you that just might be feeling like, oh yeah, I have to make videos all day, every day. But really, we are trying to speak to the people that just sometimes get stuck. And I get stuck. Rachel gets stuck. Like, we feel like this ideation process is, especially when you're trying to do things that are more authentic, more human, more like getting there. This is really a place where you lose momentum sometimes. And we want to leave you with a few quotes that we tell ourselves, we tell our students, to remind you what this process is all about. So the first one is,
You're going to find yourself in this process and not the final product. Anytime you're feeling stuck, just remind yourself, I have no attachment to outcome. However, this turns out is meant to be how it's meant to be. Sometimes the final outcome that we're attached to could be like, I need it to look a certain way. I need it to tell a certain story. But as we're going through, you might feel hiccups or roadblocks, and listen to those roadblocks, because it is a way of your spirit telling yourself that, hey, this is not how it's supposed to be expressed. Listen to me and just let it grow.
oh, Jen M was actually one of our co-teachers for a digital retreat that we did. And she said this, and we just always quote this every time.
So good. Your video is not your one hit wonder. So,
Yep.
just got to start somewhere.
Yeah. It's just so precious sometimes, you know?
It is. So, here's your invitation to be imperfect. Don't police your ideas before they have time to express. So just let it see where it comes from.
Mhm. And this is where structured consistency allows room to play. Being able to consistently come out with videos and come and execute on your ideas is incredibly important for the creative process. And so we really encourage you to find a community that is going to motivate you. That's going to be like, hell yeah, I love video too. Like, I don't think anybody understands this, but I get you. And in that time, you might also find people that are going to challenge your process and are going to say, like, hey, buddy, you're overthinking right there, but I see why. And maybe we can turn this into something. You find, like, Rachel, you always talk about how community has given you so many opportunities for collaboration,
Totally. Yeah,
especially when you first started.
when I
Yeah.
first started, I was like, does anyone want to make videos with me? And I found a few friends who wanted to like just practice, and I had the publishing aspect of it, and it became this beautiful place to kind of play, exactly it. We were playing.
Yeah. And
Lastly,
oh, sorry. Lastly is just be. We crossed out yourself because when
Who
someone
is
told me,
yourself?
I know, right? Like when someone told me this, they were like, just be yourself. And granted, like I don't know, it seems like I'm very comfortable with myself, but at the time when I was starting to make video, I was, like, just figuring out who I was, and I felt a lot of pressure to be something that I was still just figuring out, and so I have to, like, just constantly remind myself to literally just be.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so yes, we are just going to be, and with that, we got to wrap up. So anyways, if you want to learn more about the video creator course, this was a crash course. You can go to ilovecreatives.com. Also, I don't know if we might have room for one question, but other than that, there's a QR code here. So you can download the presentation, fill out the QR code, or I'm sorry, fill out the Google form with your question, and we'll do like a little FAQ email. I do see one question, which is a great one. What are your recommendations for feeding your creative perspectives about looking within for inspiration? Walks or music? Puno, how do you tap into your creative self?
I talk to people all the time. So as a brand, I'll literally like someone who might have said, "Hey, I really love this this thing." I'll go on a video call with them and just ask them like, "Why? Why is that?" And just write so many notes and then after that kind of just journal and like really think about what I just heard. That I
Yeah.
don't know, that helps me all the time.
Exportation.
Yeah.
Exportation of mind, journaling, I think is one of my biggest things. Um, okay, but thank you guys so much for tuning in and Vimeo for having us. This was really special and serendipitous. Serendipitous? Yes. And yeah, I hope to see you guys at I Love Creatives and at Digital Retreat. Oh, we actually have a digital retreat coming up this fall. So it's 4 weeks and it's with me and Puno. And we go through this whole process and more in depth and we work on a full video. So by the time you're done with the course, you will have a final product that hopefully you're happy with. And if not, it's about you're happy with the journey. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that was a lot. Thank you guys for, just holding on to your butts and getting through that with us. Yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out to us, but thanks again.